Thank you for sharing all of those names, folks. Thank you for showing up and being a part of this sacred community. Cain killed Abel in the book of Genesis. God said to Cain, "Where's your brother Abel?" And Cain said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And then God said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." How devastating to think that we are taught that the very first generation born into the world brought violence and bloodshed. Right away, the very first generation. Not only did brother kill brother, the Hebrew word for blood here is actually in the plural. It signifies that blood was shed by violence. And it wasn't only Abel's blood, but those who were supposed to come after. Cain robbed Abel of his very life, and the world of those who had come after, those whose lives would be shaped by Abel's own gifts to the world, and his misses and his sins, all are going to be, could have been, something for others to learn from. And now again, another man's blood cries out to God from the ground. And the Hebrew really does express a cry. I want us to change that. Another man's blood cries out to us from the ground. Elohai nishama shenatata bi tehorahi. Oh my God, the breath, the neshama that you have given me, it's pure. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehora tehora tehorai. Oh my God, the breath that you have given me, says our prayer book, it's pure. Neshama is the word for breath. It's the word for soul. It is our life essence. And in our tradition, we are told that God breathes that life into us. It comes from God. And when there is no longer breath, the life essence returns with clarity to God. May those whose lives have ended too soon, too violently, when their blood cries out from the earth, may their memories be for a blessing. And, we say that when somebody dies, whether we know them or not, may their memories be for a blessing. But I'm not so sure that just happens. I think we have to make them blessings. No matter who they are, their rights and their wrongs, it doesn't really matter. Life is life is life is life, and we all are created in God's image. God's breath that courses through us, which is what connects us. That is the holy part of us. And it is that connection to each other through God, through breath, through soulfulness. I think other communities, when they call each other brother or sister or friend, it's something that we should start doing more often. To call each other brother and sister and friend. Just for the simple idea that is so incredible that we're all created in God's image and there is no exception. During our week's conversations to build connections during this pandemic, we've spent some time talking this week, really talking about race, about being most of us Jewish, most of us of Ashkenazi, Eastern European descent, and what it feels like to be white or passing for white and have a sense of privilege that many of us never really thought of before. What does it mean? It means it sounds like we're entitled, but it's so much more complicated to that. We've talked about making room for others. We've shared how we have missed the mark. We've talked about what has been modeled for us, good and bad. How hopeful we have been when other people fought for justice, and how sometimes, more often than not, we've been let down. We've talked about our blindness in these weeks, our captivity to being polite and too patient. It is true what Dr. King said in his letter from a Birmingham jail when he wrote, "I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding, says King, from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Folks, he said it in 1963. What will it take for us to learn that, yes, we are our brother's keeper? What will it take? Bryan Stevenson, who I've been reading a lot and listening a lot to, the author of Just Mercy, the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, he was interviewed by Lester Holt the other day. And he was talking about his own encounters, sometimes no matter if he was a law student at Harvard or a young attorney in Montgomery, or throughout his life, even as a mature adult, he talked to Lester Holt about being stopped and being presumed guilty because he was a black man. And he said that you live day to day with this presumption of dangerousness and guilt as perceived by others, that Bryan Stevenson was dangerous. And he said, I think what we're seeing in this country now is a collective expression of our fatigue of having to be menaced and marginalized. It's a hard thing for me to get my arms around. And I've been somebody who has perceived myself as an ally, as an activist, my feelings of being on the same page with people of color, and I've missed it. Someone who has written letters and has gone to protests and have done all of these things, and I'm confessing to you that my privilege blinded me. I haven't been able to figure it out until more recent months. And I know I'm not alone, and I know it's uncomfortable to say such a thing out loud. But I think we have to, folks. It is their fatigue of having been menaced and marginalized. How do I get my arms around that? Well, the way I think we ought to and try to is to hear other people's words. I'm going to hope that my technology is going to work, but I'm going to share some recordings with you. 3 people, folks who are connected to synagogues around the country, women and a man of color, who are trying to help us learn, to help us see more clearly. I want you to meet 3 people: Evan Traylor, a rabbinical student at the Hebrew Community College, Jewish Institute of Religion, who grew up in our youth movement, attended the University of Kansas studying political science and Jewish studies and leadership studies. He serves on leadership teams of the Jewish Social Justice Roundtable and Jews United for Justice. He's the past national president for NIFTY, the Reformed Jewish Youth Movement. I'm going to introduce you to Delta Reiser, a co-chair of the Multiracial Sinai Committee at Temple Sinai in Washington, D.C. She was drawn to working at the intersection of race and Judaism as a Jew of color and a mother. After co-leading a study group on white privilege in her synagogue, she collaboratively wrote a study curriculum designed to give congregants tools to explore their own racial identity with the goal of becoming anti-racist in a Jewish context. She holds a doctorate in educational psychology from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And lastly, to introduce you to Yolanda Savage-Narva. She has devoted her professional career to helping people live their best and most healthy lives. Her work includes collaborating with tribal governments to promote public health, promoting pedestrian safety, advocating for and advancing health equity. Yolanda is the executive director of Operation Understanding DC, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting understanding, cooperation, and respect while fighting to eradicate racism, anti-Semitism, and all forms of discrimination. Yolanda has a master's in education, a bachelor's in sociology, and she is a wife and the mother of a 9-year-old son. So I'm going to pause for about 10 seconds to get this video to you. It's only a few minutes long. I ask you to sit and watch and listen with an open heart and an open mind. And Holly, if this doesn't work, you're going to let me know.
I am a person of color. I wonder why this world is so cruel. I hear a symphony of racial ethnic harmony. I am a person of color. I wonder why this world is so cruel. I hear a symphony.
I'm going to try again because it doesn't seem the sound is working. You can hear it? It was working?
Yes, the sound is working.
All right, I'm going to try it again.
Just let it run, Rabbi.
Then it's just me. All right, I'm going to do it one more time. Thanks for your patience, friends.
Symphony of racial ethnic harmony. I see every human on this planet as an equal. I want to make all of this pain go away. I am a Jew of color. I pretend to be understood and accepted by my entire Jewish community. I feel conflicted, hurt, and exhausted. I touch a future where my Black life matters. I worry every day about my son, my nephews, and my brothers. I cry tears of trauma, neglect, and fear. I am a mother, daughter, sister, and friend. I understand I need to meet you where you are in your journey. I say When is this going to end? I dream about a day when all systems of racism, hatred, and bigotry are dismantled. I try to make a difference in my world every day that there is breath in my body. I hope you will join me, because people of color, Jews of color, cannot do it alone. I am a human being. I am a human being coming to you tonight with a call to action. And that call to action is asking you to think about your role in the system of white supremacy, holding the mirror up and saying, what can I do to dismantle this? Understanding that there has to be internal and external work. People of color, Jews of color, are hurting. We're dying in the streets. We're dying in our own homes, and we are afraid. We are exhausted. Please take this time to think about what you can do, what this looks like 3 weeks later, 3 years later. The time is now.
Right now, I need my beloved Jewish community to know that Black Jews and Jews of color are in mourning. We're mourning George Floyd, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. We're also mourning so many other Black lives that have been taken from this earth far too early because of brutal systemic racism. I need my Jewish community to know that right now, in this moment, is the time to build the world as it should be, to bring forth our Torah, which says that every individual is created in the image of God, and that we should always be pursuing justice, that right now is the moment to bring forth that Torah, and that we must do it all together. So let us mourn all together. Let us support Black-led organizations. Let us change policies in our communities. And let's each and every day be working to not only be not racist, but to be anti-racist. With the hope of love and justice for all of us, let us move forward together.
As a Black Jewish woman and mother of 2 Black Jewish daughters, I want our community to take a moment to pause and to remember that police brutality and the lynching of Black people is common in our country and has been for centuries. Protests and uprisings to stop violence against Black and brown bodies are not new. Now wonder with me, why is there still a need for protest? Why are there gross inequities in almost every aspect of the Black experience when compared to the white experience in this country? The answer is racism. Now, ask yourself why the protest, the laws, the anger have not yet been sufficient to erase those inequities. Now ask yourself, am I anti-racist? Am I pro-Black, pro-immigrant, pro-reparations? Have I risked friendships, emotional comfort, physical comfort, and financial comfort to be anti-racist and pro-Black? Have I taken the time to understand how racism lives in me and in our Jewish community? Now, I am asking you, from this moment on, what will you risk to be anti-racist and pro-Black? I am asking you to be uncomfortable and persist in this hard work until we have finished building a society where no social outcome can be predicted by race. Will you join me to the end?
So, friends, I told you that was a very heavy statement, and it is types of things that we are not used to, and it might make you uncomfortable, and I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I want us to figure out how to grow from these moments, how we can learn differently, how we can try and listen differently so that we can really embrace this as a turning point. And I know that there's lots of us who will say that's not me. But I guess what our friends and neighbors are asking is, can we just listen? Can we think a little bit differently before we just respond? I think this is a turning point for people who are white or who pass for white to listen differently and be more willing, perhaps more than ever before, to be uncomfortable. And I know it doesn't feel good, but friends, light is the very best disinfectant against hatred, bias, implicit or explicit, and apathy. I want to share one closing thought. The closing thought comes from a conservative rabbi who lived for many years in Argentina and witnessed to the brutality of heinous crimes in South and Latin America. And Rabbi Marshall Meyer from Congregation B'nai Jeshurun, when he moved to New York in the 90s and revitalized that community, this is what he taught. He said in Hebrew, the verb kavo means to wait. It's from the same root that comes tikva, which is hope. Originally, the word meant to twist, tension, on the end of a rope. There is a constant tension, a fine line, a rope between inactive, passive waiting, kavo, and active hope, tikva, with real commitment. So let us decide then to break some idols, to destroy the mythology that paralyzes us from action. Let us leave our cynicism, our anxiety, and our desperation. Let's strengthen ourselves with tikva, an active hope that is rooted in reality without magic and without myths. Let us no longer be slaves of desperation, but rather, in the words of the prophet Zechariah, prisoners of a hope. You're going to be receiving messages from us, friends, from our Tikkun Olam committee about how we can show up, how we can listen differently, what we can do. We're going to be sharing resources on how to learn, ideas on how to advocate, perhaps even engage in wider conversations in a safe way with our congregants, listening, and to learn how to be present with authenticity in a way that is needed, not just the way that we want to contribute. And lastly, as we move to the conclusion of our service, we share prayers from Aleinu. Aleinu means that it is on us. And so here's a reflection, both in words and with music, for Aleinu, that it is on us. To bow and praise before God is a sign of reverence and perhaps submission. It is on us to bend our knees, only in reverence for life and only for submission to that which is good. Aleinu, it is on us. Our sages teach that the angels have no knees, that their legs do not bend. They do not need knees because their entire purpose is to stand tall before God in service. But we are not these kinds of angels. We bend under the weight on our shoulders. We let this twisted world twist us into knowing that our service to God comes not only in the form of thoughts and prayers, but in the form of action. Aleinu. It is on us. Va'anachnu korim, we bend at the knee. Umishtachavim, we bow at the waist. Lifnei melech malchei hamalachim, we stand straight before God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We who are made in God's image must be holy because God is holy. So we rise to repair this very broken world. We stand straight because we can. We stand up because we must. Aleinu, it is on us. We bend our knees before the God of love, in devotion and in disruption, in protest and in praise, from shame to shlemut, wholeness. We rise before the God of truth, to march and to move, to bend this broken arc toward justice. Aleinu, it is on us. Bent knees are for showing reverence, to prostrate in peaceful protest, to prepare us for moving, to prepare us for marching. Bent knees are not for killing. God did not make knees or any other part of us for that. Aleinu, it is on us.